program today actually is very simple. We want to introduce you to Frey College. We want to share with you our vision for journalism in Africa and why it is still relevant. In fact, it's more relevant than ever before. And then we want to show you what makes this occupational certificate journalism different and how it meets the need for a changing world. My name is Paula Frey. I am the founder and CEO of Frey College. I've been in journalism for more than 3 decades as a journalist, as a news editor, as the editor of a national newspaper in South Africa called the Saturday Star, as regional director for a global news agency called Interpress Service, and global director in Africa, and now as president of the new humanitarian news agency. And if I've learned anything in those 3 decades, is that well-trained journalists need more than simply the skill to write. They need critical thinking skills, they need technical skills, they need ethical decision-making, and understanding of the audience. They need really good research skills, a deep curiosity about the world, and yes, good writing and good storytelling skills. And it's this combination actually of craft and professionalism that really makes journalism so unique. Add to that the fact that we live in an era of constant disruption. We really have many challenges facing journalism, and yet journalism is more relevant than ever before. In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has emphasized the importance of journalism as a public good in sustaining democracy, and really emphasized the real issues of trust in media. So we know that journalists, we trust journalism to tell us the truth in this infodemic of misinformation and disinformation. Frey College was actually born out of the desire to present journalism training that meets practical demands and is underpinned by a deep theoretical understanding. And so from the outset, when we were still Frey Intermedia 17 years ago, we were determined that our training would be responsive to dynamic media requirements and be taught by facilitators who have actual newsroom experience with first-hand understanding of the challenges the media faces. Frey College facilitators are award-winning journalists, producers, and editors who care passionately about the profession. We use ongoing research to ensure that we remain ahead of the curve, to identify new ways of telling stories, and to ensure that our students are able to serve their audiences. So I'm really excited that we get to present to you today the new journalism certificate. But I want to introduce to you now our keynote speaker for today. But before that, I want to tell you a little bit about our collaboration with various media entities. Frey College really often collaborates with partners in the media sector at a national, regional, and global level. We have partnered with global organizations such as the International Women's Media Foundation and the World Association of Newspapers, WAN-IFRA, as well as regional organizations such as Africa No Filter and donor organizations such as the African Women's Development Fund and various media entities across Africa to do research, to do training, to do organizational development, and generally strengthen journalism and communications across the region. One of our partners is the South African Editors Forum, National Editors Forum, SANEF. So SANEF, in recognition of the widening gap between journalism education and the experienced journalists, producers, and media practitioners really require in terms of creating content, embarked on an overhaul of the basic journalism qualification with support from the FBM SETA. SANEF's Education and Training Committee oversaw a consultative process to ensure that the occupational certificate journalism met real newsroom needs. We have with us today SANEF Executive Director, Reggie Malusi. Reggie is an experienced journalist and communicator. He is the former editor of the really successful Daily Sun, and he's really going to speak to us a little bit today about the journalism industry, what it currently looks like, and why this qualification was necessary. So Reggie, so pleased to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for organizing this great day. It's a nice opportunity. As Paula was introducing me, my name is Reggie. I work for SANEF as the Executive Director, and yeah, thanks a lot, Paula. As Paula was saying, the South African National Editors Forum really was, we are celebrating this year 25 years of existence. The organization was as a result of two major organizations. One was a white organization called the Conference of Editors, consisting mainly of white editors in South Africa. Then the other one was the Black Union Journalists, which consisted mainly of journalists from other publications such as the World. Well, it was non-existent in 96, but the Sowetan and the likes. So these were two organizations really consisting of veteran editors. They formed SANEF. Some of them are still alive to this day, and we still tap into their knowledge. Next slide, Bamapoya. Yeah, next slide. So today, I think I'll touch on who is SANEF, what do we do, and I think it's quite important to do that so that we sort of have a contextual, understanding of really why SANEF works closely with an awesome organization such as fraycollege, and why such a certificate is quite important for us. Who we are really, we are an organization that defends media freedom. We do that quite a lot, and we do that, that's like our daily bread. We promote ethical journalism. We speak quite a lot when it comes to journalists that are not ethical, journalists that are sort of want to take the so-called brown envelope. We drive initiatives towards sustainable journalism. That's our big thing that we're doing now. We play a key role in the digital economy. We engage with stakeholders such as the Competition Commission and what's happening in that space. And yes, we play a key role in the national agenda that is media-centric. You would have seen the busy week we have had this week, more especially with regard to the SABC. Yeah, so who we are our members really are editors, senior journalists. We've got journalism trainers from academia. We champion freedom of expression. We work closely with organizations like the Community to Protect Journalists, the CPJ. We promote media diversity across South Africa. We work closely with community media, the likes of your Association of Independent Publishers. Yes, and then we write policy submissions. We do quite a lot of research, education, and training. That's why we're here today for this course. And we quite often get confused with being a union, and we are not a union. So yes, the creation of this qualification, I think fraycollege was hugely involved here. On our side as SANEF, we do have a subcommittee that is chaired by a gentleman called Chamano Makade. Chamano Makade is a journalism lecturer at the Tshwane University of Technology. He plays a huge role in our education and training programs. There was also the likes of your Asanda Nwashin. Also, Asanda she's in academia. She's a former lecturer at CPUT in Cape Town. Yes, and then these are guys really who've got a history of teaching journalism, who've got a history of teaching comms and PR. They work closely, obviously, with fraycollege and the SETA. The SETA, in this case, is the Fiber Processing and Manufacturing SETA. What does the qualification aim to do? Is really what Paula alluded to earlier, to close that gap between journalism education and experienced journalists that we see quite often. We see how junior reporters, sometimes they enter the newsroom and they feel overwhelmed with all the kind of responsibilities and experience required of them. And of late, I mean, the whole world is talking about content creation, but content creation has to come with a strategy that has to be monetized. So the local atmosphere, the media atmosphere across South Africa, what do we do? I think I put this first point deliberately because I think so often the South African media underestimates itself. But if you look at the outbreak of COVID-19, when we first had the case, the first ever case in South Africa, I think that was last year around Feb or so. There was a lot of misinformation and fake news and all that, but South African media really came out quite strongly in terms of being accurate, in terms of reporting accurately when it came to COVID-19. And that was really quite on par with global standards. The second point is our drop in revenue. We have seen quite a huge concern in that. We have seen how so many of our journalists have lost jobs. We have seen how at Media 24, for instance, about 600 media workers, they lost their jobs. We have seen Caxton closing their magazines. We have seen SABC retrenching workers. So that's still a huge concern. Because I mean, as some of you may know, when it comes to media houses, one of the biggest overhead that you can have, well, any other business actually, is your salaries. The other point that fortunately for us also government has joined in here has been the issue of misinformation and disinformation. We have partnered with quite a number of organizations. I mean, the Media Monitoring Africa comes to mind here, where we really are trying to fight misinformation and disinformation. I think the word fake news, some of us don't like using it simply because, you know, what we do as news guys, what we do is not fake. And whenever I go out to get a news, I don't get a news because I've got the word fake at the back of my mind. So yeah, so that's that. We are on a journey to rebuild trust. You may have seen retired Judge Katie Searchwell's report that was finalized earlier this year, I think around May or so, and the subsequent visual conferences that were held. That's essentially what we want to do. There's a lot of trust that was lost in the media space. We want to regain that, and it's going to be a journey, and we are aware of the road ahead. Traditional newspapers, journalism is not dying. Unfortunately, our traditional newspapers, like the rest of the world, those are suffering. They are suffering. If you look at our Sunday titles, they used to be quite chunky. That's no longer the case. They've gone down. So they've taken quite a beating, but we are well aware that journalism is certainly not dying. The qualification, the certificate itself, I think what it wants to do, we want to empower young journalists. We want them to understand the industry. We want them to ask themselves questions that what role can I play? We want them to come in and know that the time I came in as a journalist some 2 decades back is quite different from them coming in. Journalists of late are taught how to think of revenue. They are taught of how to raise money. They are taught of how to sort of think business. We want them to come in. I just spoke about mis and disinformation to say, this battle, how can we overcome it? How can we win it? And how can we keep on educating people on the differences between these two? How can we use a platform like Twitter to the best of our benefit? And we want them to be trustworthy, really. I think the industry in South Africa has taken a beating, and it has taken a beating because of some of the things that have been happening in the industry. We are not proud of them, but we want these young journalists to come in and say, look, I'm a journalist and I know my responsibilities. So yeah, I'll just go quickly here. Journalism itself as a career, I think it will forever be relevant. Some of us, we know we love it. We will die being journalists. We will never, we have crossed on the other side, and we came back because we realized that the other side does not cut out for some of us. Journalism plays a huge role. We all know in South Africa as a constitutional democracy what it does. And it's a great opportunity, really, a career in journalism for young, passionate reporters to come in. And I think a course like this, and thanks to Frey College, for the next 12 months, for those who are lucky enough to get in, will be a huge learning opportunity, and a learning opportunity where you also have a say to say, let me also see what are global standards and trends when it comes to education, when it comes to journalism and training. And South African space, I think we are a great industry. We are well supported. Of late, we have seen how so many corporate companies have come in support of the media. We know that at SANEF, and we continue to see that, and we are thankful, we are appreciative of that. And there's really institutional knowledge. I mean, just on this call, there's Paula, and Paula is, when you speak about people who are there, who you can go to and tap into their knowledge in terms of understanding the media, they are there, they exist, and they can assist. Yeah.
Reggie, I'm going to leave it there. There are more questions in the chat, but we'll be able to answer them later on in the Q&A session. But to say thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you very much to SANEF for actually driving the process of getting this new QCTO qualification for the Occupational Certificate for Journalism. So Reggie, thank you very much. For those of you who are really interested in finding out what you can expect when you enroll in this qualification, we're going to be joined now by Mama Panya Matsai, who is the lead facilitator for this course. Mama Panya is a seasoned journalist, as I said earlier on, who's worked in various newsrooms and has produced her own documentaries. So Mama Panya, over to you.
Thank you for that, Paula. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's great to be with a whole group of potential journalists. I was just laughing when Reggie was sharing about how for some of us, it's hard to leave. We try to leave, but when you leave, you find yourself coming back. So if you are considering becoming a journalist, I dare say, as a journalist, I dare say, this is really a career worth investigating. And we are excited that you are investigating doing it with us. So I'll just share with you guys a little bit about what you can expect. But before I do start sharing, I wanted to say, and maybe emphasize some of what has been said, in that journalism is a very important part of our societies. I think just this year alone, the President Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa has thanked journalists a number of times for the work they've done in uprooting corruption and upholding the rule of law. It's an important part of our democracy. So it's really important that when we train journalists, we have journalists who are up to the tasks. We have journalists who are principled and ethical, journalists who have the technical skills required. And for me, that is the exciting thing about this course, that really, as it was mentioned before, this is a real response to the gaps that exist in our newsroom. So we are confident that the journalist who's going to come out at the end of this qualification is a journalist who will really add value to the journalism industry and really uphold the values of journalism. So we've designed this course, and we are confident that it's worth your time. It's worth you investigating. And if you want to be a journalist, this is something that you should consider. So this is our course is a 1-year course. So we have packed. So it's a really jam-packed course. So we have packed all those things into 1 year, and we have divided it into 3 components. So we have a knowledge component, we have a practical component, and we have a workplace component. Then the knowledge component is really the theoretical base, because all good journalists need a healthy or balanced measure of theory and practical. So the knowledge component answers the why questions. Why do we do things the way that we do in journalism? So you will get a healthy theoretical foundation from that component. and we complete the knowledge component within the first semester. The practical component, which goes very closely and is very related, you'll see in the next slide when we look at the different modules, that the practical component is very related to the theoretical component, because what we say in theory, we need to be able to practice in real life. So the practical component is really practicing the theoretical component. So the first two components we complete within the first semester. So before the winter holidays, we would have completed the knowledge component and the practical component, so that when we come back in the second semester, then we can have the workplace component. And this is the workplace component is you going out into a newsroom, an actual newsroom, working with journalists and editors to build up really what we have, to put into practice what we learned in the first semester. So the workplace component, I think, is very invaluable, because some of the difficulties that young or new journalists face when they go into a newsroom is the fact that they've actually never been in a real newsroom. So it takes them a while to gain confidence. It takes them a while to find their bearings. But through this qualification, by the time you actually finish, you would have had real workplace newsroom experience. So when you do go into a newsroom, you will be ready to get going. As I said, so with the knowledge modules and the practical modules, they're very linked. And you'll see on the screen, these are the modules that we have. The person who asked about information gathering, you will see that we do have a component on information gathering. So the first three components of the knowledge modules are really our theoretical base. We have introduction to journalism, we have legal and ethical framework, we have governance and democracy. And you will see some of these things are things that are not usually taught in most journalism schools, governance and democracy. But how important is it that journalists understand how our country or any country is governed? How important is it that journalists understand how democracy works? But most journalists go into newsroom not understanding. They cover local elections, not understanding what happens in elections. So the course is designed to really give you those skills that you need for real journalism work. And then we have the originating of pitching of ideas, information gathering, storytelling, personal development. You will see that those components are the same for the knowledge part and for the practical part, because when we talk about originating ideas and pitching content, you need to be able to do it. We can't just talk about it. You need to be able to pitch your idea confidently, clearly. You need to know what makes a good story to pitch. You need to know how you gather information. It can't just be theoretical. So our modules and the stuff that we cover really speaks to what you need to know. And then just to make a special note there of the personal development, this is another thing, another component that is usually missing in other journalism schools. The acknowledgement that journalists, there are certain skills that journalists need that we never talk about. Earlier we spoke about confidence, time management, teamwork, creative thinking, all those skills that are really important and would really help you stand out as a journalist that you wouldn't get necessarily with other journalism schools, but we really focus on them so that when you finish here, you are really a well-rounded journalist who's able to add value really to any newsroom and excel. Just a little bit about the overview of the learning experience. So we have different, learning happens in different ways throughout the course. So we have an online component where the knowledge modules are part of an online component where you will have the material online and you will go through it. We have due dates, deadlines by which you have to have finished the the modules, but obviously you work at your own pace and you learn to manage your time as you go through the different modules and you do the assessments. Then we have sessions with myself and guest speakers. So we'll have guest speakers from the industry. Paula mentioned that we work with award-winning facilitators who are really passionate about what they do. So besides the online working where you'll be working by yourself, we'll have sessions where you meet with myself, you meet with other facilitators, and we discuss what you have been learning on your own. And even online, there are, as you do your online component, there are discussions forum where you can discuss with your classmates and the rest of us about certain things. So it's really an interactive, even though it's online, it's really an interactive learning experience. Then we start, so one of the big things about this is really, we want you to be as practical as possible. So from the early stages of the certificate, we will be producing news. So it's not just talking about what news is, what journalism is. We will actually be producing actual journalism from the very early stages so that by the year ends, really you can go into any newsroom and be sent out on the story on your first day. Then we also have compulsory in-person meetings. These are mostly essential for preparing you for your final exam, which I'll speak about just now. But they're also essential for helping you compile your portfolio of evidence. So Sandra, who's speaking after me, will speak a little bit about how this course is structured in terms of the QCTO demands. But as part of this course, you need to be compiling a portfolio of evidence, or your POE, throughout the year. So all the assessments that you do, all the tests that you write, they need to be put into a document, a file, that it will be your portfolio of evidence. So we will have this compulsory in-person meetings where we'll help make sure that you are compiling your portfolio of evidence properly, because this portfolio of evidence is important to make sure you get into the final exam. So let me just speak a little bit about the assessments that will be part of your portfolio of evidence. So throughout the year, as you are learning, even online, as you're doing the online material, you will find assessments that you must do. Every assessment you must do, and it will be assessed, and you need to pass it, because all your assessments make up part of your portfolio of evidence. All three components of the qualification have assessments, and you need to pass all of them. So as you go through the course, you will find places where it says assessment, and then you need to complete the assessment and it will be assessed. And then you need to pass it so that we put it into your portfolio of evidence, and then we send it to the external assessors, where at the end of the year, you will have an external assessment, which is not run by fraycollege, but is run by external assessors. And after you have been found competent in that assessment and your POE is complete, then you will get your certificate. So as you go throughout the year, you need to be, from the very beginning, you need to have the mindset that I need to do my assessments and I need to pass them. You can't fail any of your assessments, so you'll have to go back and do it until you pass them. So you need to have this in mind from the very beginning. Having said that, I do want to say though that this qualification is not a paper ticking exercise where you're like, okay, I need to pass this assessment. Let me just copy what I need to copy to pass the assessment. And you're ticking all these boxes, but you're not applying your mind to what you're doing, and you're not applying yourself to the whole learning experience. This is designed so that, yes, you pass, and on paper we can we can say that, yes, she knows this and this and this. But really, this is designed to give you skills that you can use personally, skills that make you employable. So at the end of the course, should you decide, actually, I'm not sure I want to be a journalist, you would have still have gained skills that mean that you can be employable in a variety of industries. And I've put there some of them that, and there are many others that you can go into, but the main thing is that you will gain through this qualification, you will gain skills that really will add value to your life and make you employable, skills that you can say, I am able to do this, I am able to write, I am able to create content, I am able to understand digital strategy, I am able to do all these things.
Joining us now is Dr. Sandra Roberts, who is head of academics at fraycollege. And she's going to be talking to us about the qualifications and how it will be.
Well, I will be talking a bit more about the Occupational Certificate journalist, which, as you mentioned, I was privileged in being involved in terms of the creation. So just to explain a little bit, some background on the changes that are happening in the educational environment. The Quality Council for Trade and Occupations, the QCTO, was set up by the Department of Higher Education to spearhead a new approach to qualifications. Qualifications that prepared candidates for the real workplace. And I'm sure all of us know about graduates with diplomas and degrees that are just not able to get jobs. This is the problem that the QCTO has sought to solve by overseeing the development, together with the sectoral education and training authorities, the SETAs, of qualifications that meet the needs of the economies and the sectors within them. So the South African Editors Forum, from their side, they were increasingly concerned about the skills that journalists have when they come into the workplace. I think a few people have mentioned that the journalism has changed a lot in the last decade, and even more so with COVID. COVID has accelerated all these changes. And as Mamaponya also mentioned, in this qualification, there's an emphasis on the kind of skills you need in the workplace, including assertiveness and stress management, preparing you for the real work environment. So in order to produce the impact that's needed in a year, the qualification is 183 credits. Many year-long qualifications are only 120 credits, but because we looked at the real needs that journalists had, this certificate is more intensive than something that you otherwise may undertake. But it will prepare you completely to create the high quality content that's needed. fraycollege is the only organization that will be offering the occupational certificate in 2022. As Mamponya said, this qualification consists of 3 components. These components work together to make sure that you have the necessary skills and knowledge for great reporting, but also you will emerge with a portfolio showing what you can do. So you're not just getting a piece of paper that says you kind of understand what journalism is, but you get you have a portfolio that you can take into the workplace and show how you've done this before. We have a in-house newsroom, Fray News, and we will be offering in a partnership with Fray Media the real work experience in a real newsroom. You will work with a real experienced news editor for the practical part. You'd have to fetch stories, research stories, fact check stories, and produce the content in the package it needs to be in. So if it's in video, audio, social media, written content, all of that. And throughout the year, all these exercises and assessments will be collected in your portfolio together with a logbook to prove that you are ready to be a journalist. You don't have to do the work experience component at Fray News. You can opt to go to other work environments as long as they will meet certain criteria. So at the end of this year, you are ready for a real work environment and have an advantage over people with graduates, with diplomas and degrees. At the end of this whole course, you'll be putting together a POE, but you will also need to sit an external summative assessment where you'll do an exam and be questioned about your portfolio of evidence. So the whole qualification is structured so that you will have the skills to succeed. And throughout the year, you will be carefully prepared for the summative assessment by our expert team. So I'm sure you're excited to apply. To apply, you can go to our website at www.fraycollege.com or scan the QR code now. So there are limited bursaries available depending on your strength as a candidate and the economic needs. As they are funded by the FP&M SETA, only South Africans can receive bursaries.
I want to start off with a question for Jessica. So Jessica, this course is partially in person, it's also online, and it's also e-learning. Could you tell us what the people can expect from the e-learning component?
Thank you for that question, Paula. The e-learning component of the course is very seamless. Participants can expect to be engaged with content that includes games, that includes discussions, that includes a number of definitions, glossaries, and obviously resources that they can then take and keep and or archive. The e-learning has videos, and to be quite honest, although there is a deadline for the e-learning component of the course to be finished, the e-learning is pretty self-paced, where participants can really go through the modules at their own pace, whether they well ahead or just to ensure that they don't fall behind. But the e-learning and our LMS that we use is quite versatile. It can be used on a cell phone, it can be used on a laptop, it can be used on a tablet, and it does not take too much bandwidth. So learners will be able to use it on any device and not have to worry about too much bandwidth. Another thing about our e-learning is with the videos that will be within the modules, there's also transcriptions to ensure that those who cannot watch the videos at that instant are able to read the transcriptions rather and still gain the information that is being passed through the videos. So that's another nice thing about our e-learning. And as I said, it's pretty seamless, it is engaging, and will ensure that participants in the course are able to engage with each other while also engaging with our facilitator, Mama Punya Mutsai.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jessica. Dr. Roberts, one of the questions is, do you want people, do you need people with experience only? Or if you've got no experience, can you apply for this course?
You don't need experience. All you need is a level 4 qualification. For international students, there is benchmarking against South African qualifications and computer literacy.
Okay. A question that has come up before, can we work and do the course?
Unfortunately not. When you get to the work experience component, as long as the workplace is approved, you can do it at another company. But really, as I said, it's 193 credits that we're cramming into a year. It's a really intense course.
What happens if people don't finish the course, Sandra?
If you don't finish the course, you've got the knowledge and practical modules that happen in the first half, and you have to finish both of those and the work experience components. So you do need to finish the whole course. You don't, and ideally in 1 year, because as I said, this is an opportunity we're particularly offering in this year with the reduced fees.
So bursaries have been very generously supported by the FPM SETA. Sandra, could you tell us what the bursary would cover?
Okay, so the bursary covers the course fees, and for the work experience component, it will cover a stipend. It also covers, there is a little amount for data, and you will be able to access computers at the fraycollege campus.
This, I want to say, as Sandra was saying, the deadline for applications is fast approaching. This is a great opportunity for matriculants, but also those who have degrees and want to transition into the newsroom or into communications. And really, you will receive a qualification that was developed by those responsible for hiring journalists, and really with the skills that the sector needs. And so I would really sincerely encourage you to apply, and to apply also for the funded places in the qualification that is being offered through the FPM and SETA, who have funded the development also of this occupational certificate. With that, I want to say thank you very much to Reggie and to SANEF for being here with us today. To thank you to all the fraycollege staffers who joined us today. And I think we're going to end off on this final video on how to apply, and you can meet our compliance officer, Akeketso Chela.
Are you applying for the Occupational Certificate in Journalism? The year-long course was developed by leading journalists and editors to meet the needs of a changing media environment. It is accredited by the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, the QCTO, and will arm you with all the skills you need to practice ethical journalism. To apply, go to fraycollege.com, click on the course, and fill out the form. You will have to upload your highest educational qualification, your CV, and your ID, then pay the application fee and press send. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Hurry! Applications close on December 16, 2021.